People who work in graveyards / morgues / embalming bodies. What's the weirdest thing you've seen? Oh, funerals and tombstones are the family business, and my dad has a lot of stories. Here are two particularly gross ones. Dad and crew were called out to a cemetery to clean a mausoleum, which usually meant scrubbing off graffiti or fixing something which broke. Instead, the groundskeeper brought them over to a tomb where a recently interred body had popped. Black goop running down the walls and the worst stench of his life. He noped out and called a hazmat crew. Another time they were dropping a vault, cement box that the casket goes inside, into a gravesite before a funeral, and noticed what looked like large pieces of grilled meat at the bottom of the hole. On asking the cemetery directory what was up, the hole is supposed to be empty, he was told to ignore it. He did not ignore it and instead brought it up with some others, eventually notifying the authorities. Turned out they had a crematorium on site and were only partially burning the bodies as a means of saving money. The leftovers were being dropped in the graves of others being buried. Few people went to jail for that apparently. My roommate worked in a graveyard in high school. Said he saw an old man hunched over in a chair at 6 a.m. from across the graveyard. Didn't think anything of it and let the man mourn in peace. Around lunchtime he was still sitting there. He went up to him and saw that he was hunched over because he had offed himself from under the chin up. He said his blood was all over the grave of his wife who had recently died. Very sad Romeo and Juliet ending. A guy with an Ascaris infestation, intestinal worms. As the body cools down they start exiting through the nose, mouth and all the orifices, which makes for a really gross spectacle. Not really the weirdest, but definitely made me feel sick to my stomach. Just finished processing the decedent's personal items and locking them away in a locker until the body was picked up. Usual stuff: wallet, cell phone, keys. He had gotten into a car accident maybe an hour or two before. He was still warm. About halfway through the autopsy, just as I had finished removing his major organs, his phone starts ringing. And ringing. And ringing. I went to the locker to turn off the cell phone and saw 27 missed calls from Mom. What is the creepiest unexplained thing you have ever come across on the internet? As a teenager looking for porn, I stumbled across a website which looked like one of those live cam sites, but then I noticed most of the people weren't engaging with the audience, and there were all kinds of people. Old people, kids, people of all different ages, ethnicities and whatnot. I clicked on a random live stream of some oblivious teenager doing her homework, and the people in the comments were saying stuff that made me realize she didn't know she was being live streamed, nor did anyone else on the site. It seemed to be some weird website of hacked webcams or security cameras where the people had no idea about it. It was creepy as fuck, and I've never kept my webcam pointed at me when not in use since. I rang my mom on WhatsApp to do a video call. When she answered, it was a man with his shirt off, middle-aged, 50s, with glasses on, sitting on a couch. It sort of looked like a hotel room. He had a foreign accent and said, "Yes? Hello? Who is this?" I hung up immediately and rang my mom again, and she picked up, and she was on camera walking around near a pond. It was absolutely bizarre and has never happened again. So I decided to just type in something like .com or something like it. Coca-Cola used to, or still does, own a URL like that. But just the same letter maybe 13 to 15 times. It came to a choppy video of a movie called South 32. It was cryptic and edited to just say South 32 over and over again, for 4 hours. So I tried a different letter. Same thing. And another letter. Same thing. The same website popped up for maybe 20 different URLs in that type of sequence. My girlfriend at the time texted me a link to a local news article involving a trial taking place that day. At the top of the article was a picture of my girlfriend sitting in the courtroom. I expressed surprise since she hadn't mentioned going to court. She definitely would have told me, and then in anticipation of it, asked me a bunch of questions, as I am in the legal field. She responded, "That's not me." We never did find out who it was. Edit: the woman who looked like my girlfriend was not the only person in the photo. She was not even the primary subject of the photo. She was sitting in the gallery with a number of other people. Reddit user FatandDepressed had an app that took photos of everyone that came to his house. He got loads in a row, often way after midnight, but no one in the photos. Then suddenly in one of the photos, he saw this thing. "I used to live by myself, was told to post here. I never even met him, I didn't know his name or face. I was blissfully unaware of his very existence. I will never know why, or when it started. I'm glad for that, I guess. I moved into my very small apartment in February last year. My landlord, Olivia was a sweet older woman who would cook too much and bring me much appreciated leftovers. She was great to me, even after telling her my problem. I'm antisocial, but she didn't mind renting to a reclusive young girl who reminded her of her daughter. Every few weeks she would knock on my door then leave, letting me know she was leaving something for me. I love that. Not even my family would cook so well. The next morning I wash and leave her empty containers outside my door, and by an hour or so she would take them back again. My other neighbors seemed fine, but I never talked or visited with them. I worked from home, so anytime I ever was forced to go out I rushed out and into my apartment, avoiding an uncomfortable situation. I loved living alone. It was everything I hoped for. I could just breathe. By April though, I started noticing things were not right. They were moving, or plain disappearing. I was convinced it was just anxiety caused by my new medication and the move. Another side effect was it would make me so drowsy. Since I hated seeing the doctor I just dealt. I took naps during the day now and eventually stopped caring. Until one incident doubled my paranoia. Olivia brought me some sort of Greek tossed salad and dressing for lunch one day, and I enjoyed it with my friend Netflix. I fell asleep in the middle of Portlandia, and woke up that evening at 5 p.m. Per usual. What was not usual was my bedding on the opposite side of me was disturbed. I only sleep on the right side. Always. Even more, it felt warm. My first thought was I must have rolled around a lot, but I knew it was too odd to dismiss. I got up and searched my apartment, gripping my phone with 911 typed in. Nothing else was disturbed, everything was exactly like it should be. I let it go. For the next few weeks everything was normal, pardon the occasional misplaced shoe or drawn back shower curtain. I thought about telling someone. My parents, maybe Olivia, but if it's not life or death I am not reaching out to anyone. I wasn't scared, I was nervous, maybe a little stubborn. But I stayed. I am not letting some stupid anxiety ruin my lovely lonely world. May came and it was getting worse. My panties, toothbrush, hell even my food was being misplaced. Every time I woke up there was this strange odor in the air. I finally realized this won't go away by ignoring it. I called my mom and begged to come stay a few days. When I got home I told them everything. Saying it out loud solidified any creepy suspicions. That weekend my dad went to my apartment and what was found was true horror. Written all over the walls, "Come back baby please." He ran out and called the police. There was no one living in my apartment, but someone definitely had access besides me. The investigation revealed a man, Henry, the son of my landlord Olivia, was in a projected relationship with me. They showed me his confession on tape. He admitted coming into my apartment every night and every day with his mother's extra key. He claims we were in love and he had my permission. He drugged his mother's food she left out for me, causing my drowsiness and falling asleep so he could come in and watch me sleep, touch my hair, kiss my shoulder. The leftovers I had in the fridge were tested and confirmed. I was absolutely horrified and disgusted. A man I never knew existed, collected my drain hair, clothes, and trash and practically lived in my apartment for 4 months. Subscribe and click on the bell so as not to miss new stories. Thanks for your support. What is the creepiest glitch in the Matrix you've experienced? 10 years ago I was returning home from a road trip with 2 friends. I received a phone call from my parents asking when we would be arriving, and I explained that we were about 25 minutes away. About a minute later we came around a bend. It was a full moon and we could see the reflection from a lake below us, and other than that the road was completely empty. Suddenly everything went completely dark in the car, no lights from the dash or gauges or headlights on the road. The music also stopped, and restarted at the beginning of the CD we were listening to. There was now a vehicle pulled over by the police about 1/4 mile in front of us that hadn't been there a split second before. I assumed I had dozed off for just a second as it was late. I thought it was still quite peculiar, though. After about a minute, the driver of the car tuned the music all the way down and said, "Did that just happen to anyone else?" The other passenger in the back seat sat forward abruptly and exclaimed, "I thought I just fell asleep." We then realized that the clock in the car was reading an hour later than it just had a minute before. To keep ourselves from freaking out, we decided that the car had possibly had a momentary electrical failure and reset the clock to an on time, turned off the dash lights, headlights, and gauges, and restarted the CD player. But when we arrived home 25 minutes later, we were 1 hour late. I am missing an hour of my life, and to this day have no idea how it happened. Thank you for watching. Tell your story, or give a reaction about the stories you heard in the comments.